MTG Scoundrels. It's in the cardboard.
Ladies and gentlemen, scoundrels of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Modern Weekly. Today on the docket we have Food Combo versus Merfolk. Merfolk starting with an island and passing. Windswept Heath going to get cracked here. Going to 17. Finding an overgrown tomb. Must have a turn one play. Would not be surprised if we see a goose or a halfling here. There's been a lot of different food variants that have been seeing some play here in modern leagues and in some of these bigger modern tournaments. Does have the potential of just winning the game, which honestly, as a modern player, is one of the things that you really look for, is an instant win. As we see a gilded goose hit the battlefield. Looks like Mutavault going into play. And there's an unlicensed hearse in the main deck. Windswept Heath here. That'll get cracked. One thing you have to worry about when you're cracking for lands here against a Merfolk deck, of course, is the harbinger, the flood moon, if you will. Getting the basic land, not a bad option. Now granted, when you're running this many mana dorks as well, you have a good shot of being able to work around the harbinger. Speaking of which, there's a delighted halfling. And passing the turn. Unlicensed hearse on the end step going to get activated, exiling both the Windswept Heaths. Island for turn. Gotta love those bucket islands. There's a dismember. That'll kill one of the ways to get around a harbinger. Taking 4 damage, bringing us to 16 all. Gilded Goose, also a decent way to make food in these lists to help combo off. Master of the Pearl Trident coming into play here. Orcish Bowmasters on the end step, pinging the opponent, bringing us to 16 to 15. That'll come with an orc army. Untapping. Three mana available in some sort here for the combo deck. Oh, I see a collected company in hand there. Passing the turn. That could also be leaving something open for such as a Court of Calling. And a Licensed Hearse eats the Gilded Goose out of the bin. Speaking of, there is a Harbinger of the Seas. All non-basic lands are islands. In response, we'll see a Court of Calling. Courting for 2. Finding a Samwise Gamgee. which is a big part of the combo here. Of course, the main combo for food, Samwise, as well as Cauldron Familiar, as well as a Viserys Ear. Of course, you also want a food out on the battlefield. But generally, when you already have the Sam out and you play one, or the final card, that will in fact get you the food you need. And it's pretty strong into artifact hate. Considering the Cauldron Familiar ability isn't making the food have to be activated to sack, it's just sacking the food to bring it back. There's a Chatterfang. This will bring with it a food and a squirrel token on the ETB. So that's 2 food on the battlefield. An Orc army, a squirrel, Samwise Gamgee, Chatterfang, Orcish Bowmasters, and a Delighted Halfling. Passing the turn here. Untapping, drawing. It's a lot of permanents on the battlefield here, which is really the food combo at its best. There's a Silvergill Adept showing a Rishodon Dockhand, drawing a card. Oh, food combo player missing a Bowmaster trigger. That's the whole reason you play the Bowmaster. Should be 16 to 14, but you missed the trigger. There's a Dismember. That will get rid of the Chatterfang. Harbinger getting in here. That'll bring us to 13 to 11. And passing the turn. Island for turn for the food combo player. Into a Collected Company. Oh wow, looks like only one creature hit. It is an Orcish Bowmasters. Of course, with the Master of the Pearl Trident out there, all the Merfolk have +1/+1 in Island Walk. Yep, realized it. Pinging the opponent. That'll bring us to 13 to 10. Rough Collected Company there. Passing the turn. Unfortunately, the Merfolk player should have went ahead and tapped that Unlicensed Hearse to hit the Chatterfang in the bin in response to the Collected Company. Because now the Sam can be used to sack 3 food to bring the Chatterfang back at instant speed. There we are, sacking the 3 food. Putting the Chatterfang back to hand. There's a Cavern of Souls. That's going to name Merfolk. Even though it is in fact an island here. There's a Rishodon Dockhand. Getting in. That'll bring us to 7 to 10. With the Silvergill Adept and the Harbinger. And there is a chalice on 1. So that'll fight Viserysir and the cat coming down. Specifically the Viserysir. But it also stops things like Delighted Halfling and Gilded Goose as well. Here is a collected company. Let's see what gets hit. Oh, there's a cat. Oh, and a grist in there as well. A Delighted Halfling. So 3 possible targets. Probably take the grist and the cat here. In fact, yep, there it is. Grist the Hunger Tide and Cauldron Familiar. That'll make a food. Drain for 1. That'll bring us from 7 to 10 to 8 to 9. Now, probably a big thing here to try to get rid of the Master of the Pearl Trident. Yep, I'm going to sack a squirrel. Shoot down the Master of the Pearl Trident. Now you can block the merfolk that are attacking in. Passing the turn here. At this moment, especially with Delighted Halfling and such, you're less likely to care about the Harbinger of the Seas. Oh, there's a Kira Great Glass Spinner. A favorite piece of these merfolk decks to be able to deal with things targeting their merfolk. In the upkeep, tapping the Overgrown Tomb here, which is a choice. There's a forest. Three mana. There's a Chatterfang. That'll make another food. That'll make another treasure. Oh, excuse me, another squirrel, not another treasure. There's a Sylvan Safekeeper, but unfortunately that's going to get countered by the Cord. Grist upticking. Ooh, putting a Cocoa in the bin. You don't like to see that. But that will make a insect and a squirrel. There is the squirrel. I'm passing the turn here. 2 cards getting exiled by the hearse. That hearse is massive. But it doesn't have trample, nor does it have island walk. Kira getting in for 2. Bringing us to 6 to 9. No flying blockers currently. Dockhand. Tap in a forest. Honestly, there's enough permanents on this battlefield that attacking in would do a lot of damage. Birthing Ritual. That's going to get countered by a Flare of Denial. Upticking the Grist, making a squirrel and an insect. Gosh, I think there's an Endurance in hand in there for the food combo as well. Just passing here. Doesn't want too much issue with a crackback. But starting on the next turn probably has enough to start making things difficult. Kira getting in for 2. Bring us to 4 to 9. And passing. Dockhand, gonna tap down a forest once again. Looks like... Well, here a Grist could kill a Kira. Well, no, it couldn't because it would get countered. Never mind. That is what makes the Kira a difficult card to deal with. There is a land for turn. Grist will tick up. Put a land in the bin. Make a squirrel and an insect. Three squirrels. And 2 insects getting in. Two creatures getting blocked after the hearse gets crewed by the Silvergill Adept. 3 damage getting in, bringing us to 4 to 6. Enough to chip in without a good top deck here. Makes things a little difficult. And there's an Endurance in hand too. So you can slam that down if you get through a counterspell. And scooping it up. Game 1 going to food combo. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. For those of you that I met over at RC Portland, SCGCon Portland, thank you so much for tuning in. It was a pleasure to meet y'all. We'll go ahead and move on to our sponsors. First of all, as you saw with some of our tokens here, we're sponsored by Arcane Artistry. They make wonderful food, clue, and treasure tokens in the stained glass style. Link to their Etsy below in the description. Wonderful tokens made out of acrylic. And check out our friends over at Grove Warden Games, hosts of our channel and sponsor of our channel. A wonderful place to storm out. Thank you so much to Grove Warden Games. Their TCG player link and their store link is in the description. And of course, if you're looking for new art, definitely check out our friend Sean Gerard. Email in the description. Opened to new art projects and did our channel art. So definitely check them out if you enjoy that stuff. And last but not least here, check out our socials. We are at MTG Scoundrels on Twitter, Blue Sky, and on Facebook. We post updates there, interact with people, and of course, give our opinions on things in terms of the Magic metagame. So definitely check us out. And now for a short segment that I like to call Monologues of a Scoundrel. Is Mox Opal broken? Or is it Underworld Breach? That is a question I'd like to dive into this week on the monologue. But generally, we can all agree that the Breach decks, specifically Underworld Breach, are very powerful. They're definitely in the top 3 to 4 best decks in the format, and generally I'd even say the best 3 decks in the format. If you're counting Eldrazi Ramp, Boros Energy, and Underworld Breach. A close fourth, I would say, is Dimir Midrange, and as weird as that sounds, I think to a certain extent, they should be playing Esper, be playing Pest Control, as a way to deal with these Breach decks, and, of course, to deal with these Boros Energy decks. Reality is, I don't think it's the Mox that's the problem. I think Mox is actually kind of okay, though it does in fact limit what you're going to be able to do with artifacts moving forward. If you print something too powerful at a low mana cost, it's just going to continue to break the Mox, which we saw especially early on in the modern format, and why Mox Opal ended up having to get banned in the first place, because it was going to continue to do broken things. But Underworld Breach is just going to continue to be a card that gets abused as one of the best engines in the format, especially if you continue to print lower cost mana rocks that you can then sack to Breach, or if you it really even takes away your ability to create artifacts that are legendary on the lower end of the scale, because they can be abused. You end up casting them, ending up putting one back in the graveyard, and of course, over time, being able to remill yourself with Grinding Station. And in some ways, I really don't like saying that Underworld Breach is in fact the problem, because I do like Underworld Breach as a card, in decks like Burn as a sideboard piece. It's a fun way to be able to recast things like Lava Spike, Lava Spike, Lightning Bolt, Lava Dart, cards that you have cast a lot early, and, get to reuse to get those extra points of damage in when you need to be going fast. Now, granted, maybe me saying Burn is the wrong deck type here. Ultimately, I believe it's, the Blitz Prowess deck specifically. It was a fun card to have as a 2-of in the main deck. But as we saw with cards like KCI, it needs to go at some point. To keep printing interesting, powerful cards, Wizards has to keep pushing the envelope. And at some point, these cards are going to have to get banned anyway. But since you just rebanned Mox Opal, or unbanned, I believe you will have to ban Underworld Breach. Alright, we're about set to move into Game 2 here. Looks as though the food combo deck going to 5, which is not the greatest place to be starting here. There's a Cavern of Souls, that's going to name Merfolk. Playing Rishadan Dockhand, which is a bit rough for the food deck that tends to be starved of resources early. There's a Delighted Halfling, which helps a little bit. In a lot of ways, you'd almost prefer to have a Goose here, though. There is a Tide Shaper targeting the forest. Oof. That is a tough way to start for the food combo list. A great way to start for the Merfolk list. No second land. That is a rough spot. There's the third land for the Merfolk player. There is a, well, yep, Silvergill Adept. Showing the Harbinger of the Seas, drawing a card. Attacking him with the Tideshaper, which is a 2/2 here. That'll bring us to 18 to 20. And the land getting tapped by the Rishodon Dockhand. Well, there is a Windswept Heath. That was needed. Cracking it. Going to 15. Wouldn't be surprised if it's trying to find the Overgrown Tomb here. Yep, there it is. Even with that Harbinger in hand. Luckily, the Delighted Halfling helps you get around some of the color requirements of your legendary 2-drops, whether it's Alanis or whether it's Samwise Gamgee. Okay, there's a Gilded Goose. That'll bring a food with it. And passing the turn. There is the Harbinger of the Seas. That makes things a lot harder. That backside of Sink into Stupor is going to come in as an island, so no life lost there. There is the Tideshaper. That'll get in. Going to 11. And the Silvergill Adept as well. This is a tough spot for mana. Ooh, Rishodon Dockhand in response. Here's a Collected Company. There is a Lannis, and there's an Academy Manufactor. That's what you want to see. So I'll make a Food Clue and Treasure Token. Academy Manufactor is a broken card. Of course, those are tokens by our sponsor, Arcane Artistry. Passing the turn. Well, it's a decent spot. However, there is a top deck, as some of you see there, a Master of the Pearl Trident. There's the Kira. There's the Master of the Pearl Trident. And the Master of the Pearl Trident given everything Island Walk. And that should do it. Game 2, going to Merfolk. Thank you all for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. Love the growth we've seen in the channel this past year. We hope to continue to bring you guys more modern Magic the Gathering, as well as some other tidbits here on the channel. But one thing's for certain, you will see a modern match every week, barring health and other things. The format's in an interesting place. And we will see how Aether Drift ends up affecting the format. Ketramos alone is going to be fun for these Orzhov Blink decks. And hopefully in the future we'll be able to play some Orzhov Blink on the channel for you, as well as some different breach options. To a certain extent, we have to work around the fact that, we only put up what our players in our meta are playing. So if you happen to be in the Portland area and you want to come by, playing some Breach, playing some Orzhov Blink, we might just get you on the channel. Both players looking at their cards, and seems like Food Combo might be keeping their 7. Merfolk going to 6 here, it looks like. Yep, keeping the 6. Merfolk starting strong with a breeding pool going to 18 to 20. Playing a Gilded Goose. That'll bring a food token. Island and Pass for the Merfolk player. There's a Verdant Catacombs. Cracking it. Going to 17 here. Probably the smart idea to try to get around Harbinger of the Seas as best you can. There is a forest. Into an Academy Manufactor here. It is on the stack. Ooh. Stern Scolding, which hasn't seen a ton of play recently, but definitely a solid counterspell. As one way to slow down this food list. Stern Scolding hits pretty much every card. There is an Otawara. As the land for turn. That'll give 2 mana to the Merfolk player. Casting the Tide Shaper. Targeting the forest. There is a Verdant Catacombs. That'll help. That'll get cracked here. Finding a swamp. Not a bad get here, considering the amount of land hate there is in this Merfolk list. There is a Viserys here, and passing. Tide Shaper getting in. That'll bring us to 14 to 20. Ooh, there is an Engineered Explosives. On 1. Untapping. And drawing. Double Cocoa in hand. Not a bad place to be. There is the collected company. That we'll find. Looks like only 2 options. It could have been worse. A gilded goose and academy manufactor. The goose is going to make a food on the ETB. The academy manufactor will see all 3. Well, we'll see the food and should make 3 tokens here. In response, sacking the goose to the Visceraseer, sacking the goose to the Visceraseer. Keeping that on top. Visceraseer will stay there as well. I believe there should still be 3 tokens here, but that could be false. I do apologize. Nope. That has been discovered. Okay, so food, clue, and treasure. That ETB still happens. The academy manufacturer was not killed here. So no replacement effect being denied. Three open mana, passing the turn. There is Alanis. One of the 2 engine cards this deck loves to have out. Windswept Heath going to get cracked. Looks like going to 13. Finding a forest. Not enough forests to go find like a gingerbread cabin here. Could have found a dryad arbor possibly to trigger and create another clue, food, and treasure. Besiege you as land for turn and passing. Interesting spot for the Merfolk player. There's a dismember. That'll bring us to 13 to 16. Treasure getting cracked into a collected company. Ooh, a bunch of hits here. Deciding to go with the Samwise and the Chatterfang. Which in a lot of ways, not a bad option at all. Chatterfang is essentially a removal spell. And sack outlet. So it means you really only have to find Cat to finish up the combo. The Cat, of course, being Cauldron Familiar. So the Lannis will see both creatures enter. That'll make 2 of each. The Sam will see the Chatterfang enter. That'll be another 1 of each. So 9 squirrels. Four clues, 4 treasures, or excuse me, 4 food, 4 clues, 3 treasures. Untapping. Finds another Mutavault. There is an engineered explosives, this time on 0. Cracking the engineered explosives. Drawing a card there. And there's a Master of the Pearl Trident. So all the tokens are gone. However, there's 3 pieces. And things could get rebuilt very quickly. And there is a collected company. This time that's going to get Flare of Denialed, sacking the Master of the Pearl Trident into a Delighted Halfling. That'll make 1 of each and 3 squirrels. Attacking in for 6 damage, bringing us to 13 to 10. And scooping it up from there. Game, set, match, going to food combo. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend, and we will see you all next week.